1 second. Oh, yeah. You got that. We ready?
I got it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you that you're present in our little meeting because we gather in the name of your Son. We ask that our decisions are wise and prudent and we're respectful to one another. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I'd like to call this evening's meeting of the Jackson City Council to order. We'll open with roll call.
Foster. Elliott.
Here.
Colby.
Here.
Peters.
Here.
Newkirk.
Here.
Bop.
The chair would entertain a motion to excuse Mr. Foster. He had contacted me today, and he is one of many with the flu. Mr. Newkirk, is there a second? Mr. Elliott? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. We will go into recognitions. Mayor Evans, take it away.
Thank you. Two recognitions tonight. We'll start with Aaron Young, who's with us tonight. I think you're probably all aware of the situation. Aaron had applied to the Republican Party caucus to fill the seat vacated by Mr. Crabtree, and she was appointed by that caucus, but it was later determined that there may not have been a quorum at that meeting, so the backup process is to have council appoint to fill the position. The backup to that is to have the mayor appoint the position. So what I'm recommending to council tonight is that they make a motion and appoint Aaron Young to fill that vacant seat so that we can get her sworn in and get her sitting there.
Is there a motion?
And then I just had one housekeeping matter, and I confirmed it with Marla. So technically, the Republican Party still has a few days to do it, but they've decided they're not pursuing it any further, and they've asked the city to do it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's just for the record.
They had 45 days.
Right.
And it's not actually that yet, but they did ask us to go ahead and do it. So if the councilman would make a motion to that effect.
The chair would entertain a motion. Mr. Bott, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Elliott? Discussion? Ms. Coon?
Okay. Elliott.
Yes.
Colby.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Bop.
Yes.
The motion passes. Ms. Young, welcome. The chair welcomes you. You have your chair.
I guess this one.
Take your seat, I'll swear you in.
Yeah, I think the mayor will swear you in. I'm sorry. I got her seated before the swearing in.
It's going to work for you, Pete?
I'll do it if it's all right. I'll do a candidate and maybe opposed. Is that all right?
Whatever you want.
Okay. Is that all right, Aaron?
Whatever you want.
That's right there in that way.
I'm going to give you the picture so you guys And I'm
I need to get a picture,
Raise your right hand and repeat after me.
For the website.
I, Aaron Young,
I, Aaron Young,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio
and all local ordinances,
and all local ordinances,
and I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
perform the duties of a city council member
perform the duties of a city council member
according to the law and the best of my ability.
according to the law and to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And welcome to the council. One of them will be for Cindy and one will be for you. Sure. Sure.
On three. One more time. Randy'd like to be there too. Nothing, it wasn't
Okay.
anything. I just asked if you could be in her website picture with her.
Ms. Young, would you like to say a few words while you're seated there? And
I would just like to extend my appreciation to everybody who helped support me during this venture. This was something that I've thought about for a very long time, and it makes me extremely proud to be here tonight to support our city and hopefully make a difference where it's needed.
Great.
So thank you.
welcome. Welcome. Mr. Evans, I think you have another recognition?
I also have another recognition. You might have, it was on the news, it was in the paper, but recently, State Auditor Keith Faber, the liaison was in town, Suzanne Simpson is her name, to present an award to our city auditor's office for its performance during the fiscal year 2023. The certificate presented states this award is presented for excellence in financial reporting in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principles in compliance with applicable laws for the fiscal year ending 2023. So I just wanted to give a shout out at council, even though it's already been out there, to not only our auditor, Mr. Reed, but also the deputy auditor, Heidi McCormick, the assistant deputy auditor, Denise Sickles, and the accounting clerk in that office, Nancy Daring. That bunch, they do a great job, as noted here. You know, we went through some new hires in that office a couple years ago, and they're getting the job done. So congratulations, and want to recognize the city auditor's office for a job well done.
Mr. Reed, would you like to say a few words?
It's been a long road. But no, we've come a long way in the last 3 years. And from totally rebuilding basically from the ground up. And I'm very, very happy that they're back in line, that we've been able to get the Auditor State Award. It was something we would often get, and hopefully it will be a continuation from this point forward.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Congratulations. Anything else, Mayor?
That's all.
Thank you. I don't believe we have any visitors who are signed up to speak this evening. So next we'll move into the approval of the minutes. They were in your packet for the January 27th meeting. Is there any objections or corrections to the minutes as presented to council?
I'll move to accept the minutes as presented.
By Mr. Peters, is there a second? By Ms. Colby. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Next on our agenda, we move into the committee reports. We'll begin with utility. Mr. Newkirk.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Newkirk. Budget and finance, Ms. Colby.
No report.
Thank you, Ms. Colby. Mr. Foster is absent this evening, so we'll move to service. Mr. Peters.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Auditor's report, Mr. Reed.
I really don't have anything this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Kirby.
No report.
Chief Hinch.
I'll try to be brief as I look. It doesn't have a long agenda today, and I try to usually help that speed along. First of all, I want to commend Mr. Reed on running an efficient and productive office. As somebody who has daily submissions to his office, we do seek a lot of advice from him. They are extremely efficient and they are extremely productive, and so we do appreciate that. A lot of trust in the advice he's given in my short tenure as the chief of police on how to properly and efficiently spend taxpayer money on a department that spends a good bit of money, which brings me into my second portion. Obviously, one of the concerns that my staff always relays to me is the vote on a city tax that comes up. And one of the suggestions from one of the sergeants kind of went around the department, and they wanted me to ask this council if they thought it would be a good idea to organize a public meeting in this chamber at your discretion in the next 6 to 8 weeks to invite the public to come in, talk to the police department about Jackson PD, some of the program strategies, the use over the last several years of the tax money. We don't want to talk about specific cases or get into, talking about specific instances, but invite the public to come listen to a little bit of what we have done and then ask questions in case they haven't, because we're accountable to the public and we'd like to answer any questions they may have. So I'm going to ask each of you if you think that that's an appropriate thing to do, whether you would encourage us to do that, whether you'd like to participate in that. I'm just looking for some feedback, and if you don't have any tonight, think about it and get back with me at a later date.
Any discussion this evening?
Yeah, Mr. President, I agree. It wouldn't hurt as well to have some sort of handout or information or presentation that we could put out to the public who are in attendance or not even, at home or whatever, of projects that were completed or money that was spent for X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of confusion about the funding of certain projects. We all remember the South Street Water Project from last summer. And a lot of people were upset about that. The funding was from something completely different. So I think that's a great idea, and I don't think maybe we should have one, maybe we should have several. But any information that can be provided to the public that explains what is actually happening, because when people hear the word tax, who likes it? I mean, we're all sitting here because people didn't want to pay their taxes 250 years ago. So it's not a pretty word, but the things that have come from it are pretty. So we need to do a better job of getting that out to the public. I'd be happy to share any information as long as the administration can present that to council. Maybe throw together something that we could get out to the public, but we do need to schedule something like that, and probably the sooner the better. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Other discussion? We'll take it to heart and see what we can, look at schedule going forward. Obviously, election time will be here before we know it, I mean, truthfully, but probably in our meeting on the 24th, maybe that'll be a topic that we could bring back and see what we can bring forward.
One of the questions is, would it be better to, instead of trying to jam that in, that we have an off night?
I suggest having at least 2 meetings, because that way you could cover the police, and you could cover administration. And those are 2 different areas, and different people have different questions for both of those. So administration could present the projects, and if you could present what you've done with the money and what it's meant to your department.
Sure.
I think those would be 2 different areas that could be separated.
Well, I think we feel like the public is so much better protected than they were 4 years ago. A big part of that has been, the money we've been able to ensure getting good people, good quality training and some equipment, but to make sure that they understand why we have some of the things that we do and what kind of things that we feel like we're able to tackle now that we weren't able to do maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I think that's where I agree with him when he said it. I said, I think it'd be beneficial. So.
Let us look to revisit possibly on the 24th, maybe to try and create and get a feel from those on council what the direction is.
Mr. President, one more. I don't think we should try to cram it in before a council meeting. It should be like on an off night, just so there's enough time.
Great. Any other questions or comments for Chief Hinch? If not, thank you, Chief. Mayor Evans?
I'll also start with the income tax. I think those meetings need to be held. I don't think there's such a thing as bad publicity for the income tax. It needs to be, word needs to be got out there, and the more the merrier, so to speak, and the more transparency, the better. Along those lines, H.D. Crabtree, who did serve on council, has volunteered to chair up the Citizens for Jackson Committee, which is a in support of that tax. Mrs. Young did that before, and since he's on council now, and HD's not, he volunteered, I'm sure he's volunteering his wife Amanda in there too, but they're going to very soon be also reaching out to us and trying to coordinate some reach out to the public in support of the tax. Along the lines of other things I want to update you about, in personnel, we have several positions posted now for the openings in the city. We do have a skilled labor position, one that's been open since fall, we just haven't filled. Didn't want to fill it over the slow period of the winter. That's a street and alley job that we have posted now, we'll be filling soon. And then multiple openings for seasonal help and part-time help, like we do every summer, as well as lifeguards for the city pool. We are already opening up applications and taking them for all of those positions. So if you know anybody, let them know. Also regarding, prior to the last meeting, we had the update from BDT Architects regarding the feasibility study of the Memorial Building. And we'll continue meeting with them to review feasible alternatives and cost estimates. Any input from council or the public, we welcome. You can reach out to my office, to myself, or anyone in my office really with suggestions or comments there regarding the proposed memorial building renovations. We also received word very recently that we received another grant from ODOT that we'd applied for, the $150,000 no-match grant to help us. It was an application of ODOT for pedestrian and bike paths and multi-mobile pathways. So we just received notice that we was chosen for that grant. So we'll see what happens on that. And then finally, the planning committee had a meeting, or the planning commission had a meeting earlier this evening. So I don't know if that's old business or new business, but they recommended to council that they move forward with the adoption of the new zoning that council has been working on for the better part of a year with Crossroads. So maybe someone on council or from the committee can make a motion to that effect later tonight. What will happen is once council moves to adopt it, then there'll be, of course, we'll probably want to do the 3 readings. They'll need to be scheduled. They'll need to schedule. Hopefully tonight we'll schedule the council has a public hearing. Tonight, the planning commission had a public hearing. Next, the council has a public hearing. That's just going by the rules in the current existing zoning book. So hopefully by the end of March then, can have that adopted and in place. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. Questions for the mayor? Hearing none. Mr. Swackhammer.
Well, the mayor definitely has covered most of the topics right now. The only couple I'm going to add, the 17th is a holiday, so it does impact the trash routes and stuff, so that'll be a Tuesday pickup since the holiday's on Monday. Also, one of the items that we've looked at in preparation for the downtown renovation, it actually came out of ODOT's last study also, is the traffic signals on Main Street. We have some of them we know that are very slow, especially if you're on a side street, Columbia, for example, trying to make a turn. Over the next week to 10 days, we will be setting Main Street to flashing yellow, the side streets to flashing red. There will be new signage going up around our traffic pattern change. We will continue doing that for 30 days. It is our desire to speed up the flow down Main Street and also not have people have to sit so long on the side streets waiting for the camera to pick up their light. It'll be a flashing red. They'll be able to come up and make turns as appropriate based upon the traffic. So look for a change in traffic pattern signs this will be on 3 intersections. This will be at Columbia, at Church, and at Portsmouth. The only 4-way stop on Main Street, once we're done, will be Broadway and Main. It will be actually a 4-way red stop sign. The other ones will be flashing lights, yellow on Main, red on the side streets.
Questions for Service Director? Mr. Peters?
So, after the 30-day window, are the poles and whatnot up there going to be removed? Or are you just going to leave the lights that are there? What's that going to look like?
We need to leave the lights there for pedestrian crossing. So the trip signals will allow pedestrians to get from one side of Main to the other, but it will move the flow of traffic. When ODOT first looked at it, they made a recommendation of changing a lot of 4-way stops. And so I went back and asked them about this process instead. 4-way stops doesn't keep the flow of traffic going like a flashing yellow does. And so that's their recommendation, was do a 30-day, post the signage, and then we'll determine at that time whether or not we've been successful and done so safely.
And while we're on it, which intersections have cameras? They replaced the lights at Morton Street, Bridge Street, Chillicothe Street. Those lights they changed. It used to be, if you headed out Morton Street, it was a continuous turn. I drive through there in the mornings, I watch people just blow that red light.
Yeah.
Are those on? And to turn on the other side, coming in Morton Street, the lights are just really long, I think it's like 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And coming through there at 10 o'clock at night, there's no traffic. So you sit there at a red light for 2 minutes, and you could...
All of those lights, when ODOT put in the new signals down through there, those are all activated by a camera. Those are not on the one that's in the pavement and stuff. So people have to pull up to trip them, and then once they're tripped, they're on a cycle, regardless of however many people's in line. So like the one on South Street, we did just recently go out and shorten the cycle on South Street because it was backing up Main Street both directions back to the rental place down by Kroger's. So we adjusted the cameras there and we shortened the cycle on South Street. So we'll see how that goes. So we have some capabilities, but we have not touched them since ODOT did the install and they adjusted them.
It might be something to look at because it really doesn't serve a purpose, especially at certain hours, for that light to stay that way. And then a couple other questions. After the snow has melted, I lost count at about 7 pieces of curb and sidewalk that are just annihilated by snowplows. Brand new curb, if you want to look at the little pizza place here on the corner, brand new section of curb, just shredded. So that alone, the equipment that was probably roughed up for that. They're going to have to go back and fix this one section because it's so big. Is there a way to kind of not make that happen? There's a piece of sidewalk over in the 3rd Ward where they caught the edge of it, tore the curb, and a piece of, like a whole section of sidewalk. That's a pretty heavy impact. It's expensive equipment, expensive curbs. Is there a way to kind of not tear that up?
When you get several inches of snow on the ground, things are going to happen. We don't like it, but when you can't see where the curb is, and a lot of times when you're plowing, you really don't have any idea where that curb is.
Well, my question is there any way to mark them better than what they already are, especially uptown? There's got to be a way to mark the edge of the street somehow. We know snow's coming. I mean, personally, I have a little reflective flag that I put out there so they don't catch the edge of my driveway, so they know where the curb is. Like, it just seems like that's gonna be a lot of work, not let alone the wear and tear on the equipment that hit the concrete, but there's a lot. It's probably 10 to 12 places that, some of them are brand new, even up by Colorado South. Brand new curb just annihilated, scraped off, busted, has to be fixed.
Well, some of those around buildings, I'll be honest with you, because we had some people thought it was the city doing it, that had brought in private equipment to clean off sidewalks and stuff. City didn't put equipment on the sidewalks.
This isn't sidewalk.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So we had, businesses are using outside vendors as well to clean up in front of their businesses. I'm not saying that we didn't, but I'm saying for the amount of snow we got and the number of miles that we've kept clear, we're going to have these situations. We'll have to go back and repair them. There's no excuse for them, that they are part of doing business.
One last question is they repaired like the creek bank at Manpower. The last rain we had, it washed all that out, so like eroded. If it floods, if it continues to flood, which we're going to run into spring, so it's going to, we need to get that fixed. I know there was a discussion previously about putting, when they did this was previous administration, when they did the sidewalks down there, is to put some stone in there to help keep the bank intact. And I'm talking about the one in front of the chamber sign. It's really rough. I'm sure you guys have seen it. The other part of that is on the other side of the footbridge there, what would be the problem with widening that, cleaning it out? There's even part of the rail bridge, probably 15 feet of the rail bridge that's under sediment, like the dirt goes all the way up to the bottom of the bridge, and there's pilings that are going down in there. What will be the harm of cleaning that all out? Just asking. I know there's some trees and stuff planted, there's plenty of room to help offset even the park flooding, because all of those storm sewers also empty into that little stream that's dry most of the year, but when it rains, it fills up pretty quickly. Is that something that they could look at?
Actually, all the tributaries going into, is it called Little Salt Creek now? What's the actual name? Depending on what map you look at. But they are actually looking at cleaning some of and most of the tributaries coming in, clear from almost 32 clear to the sewer plant as part of this project we're working on. It's not a short turnaround project, but we're looking at what we can do. We've already been in contact, or the engineers have, with Army Corps of Engineers, and some of the information that they shared out of that was different than what we had been told before in a positive way. So it gives us hope that maybe we can do some things also in the future.
Yes, over on Logan Street, the bridge on Logan Street, the walk bridge is closed.
Yes.
For what reason?
It did not pass ODOT's inspection.
For the walk bridge?
The walk bridge portion did not.
Okay.
And so we it was either close the whole bridge or close the walk portion. So we closed the walk portion. We are working with a firm also to get the information to apply for some grants. We had 3 bridges that they identified that had issues. If you'll notice on Vaughn Street, that walk bridge also got closed, not the bridge, just the walk bridge. It got a posting for 10 people, and then the one on Burlington had a weight reduction posted on it. And so we are working with ODOT and others right now to go after some funding to help make some improvements. They gave us the information we needed to do to make temporary fix improvements. We've already hired a firm to do those. Those should be completed in the next 1 to 2 months. We probably will not change the load limit on Burlington for that reason, and we will probably not change the walk bridge situation there. But just be aware that those three are on the radar, and we are working to get funding.
Any other questions for the service director? Hearing none, we'll move into the ordinance and resolution portion of your packet. We have ordinance 05-2025, first reading. Ms. Coon?
An ordinance approving additional appropriations in the fire tax levy 1995 fund and declaring an emergency.
Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance 05-2025 as presented to council?
I move to adopt.
Mr. Elliott, second by Ms. Colby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Discussion, Mr. Swackman.
Yes, as you'll notice, this is additional appropriations. $50,000 of that is a Marks grant that we received that we'd like to appropriate to the equipment line item. And the other $30,000, when we went to get our Marks equipment quotes that we could use the grant for, we found that for an additional $30,000, we can actually save $50,000. And it actually then moves our fire department over to all Marks radios. So we have the levy money sitting there that that portion had not been appropriated in the budget, so we got the money, it's in the levy account, we just need to move it to this line item. Again, spend 30, save an additional 50. It's a good funding for this program.
Thank you, Mr. Swackhammer. Other discussion? Mr. Reed?
It is important to get it appropriated because they run out of time. They order the materials. This grant has to be spent in a timely manner, or you have to hope that they'll renew it, or they take the money back.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Other discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Elliott?
I move we suspend the rules.
Motion by Mr. Elliott to suspend rules, second by Mrs. Colby. Discussion?
Do we know what the date is, like, market here? Any idea approximately?
Question, I'm sorry?
The grant date is not listed on the paperwork?
The grant, we've already received the money.
You said we had to spend it by a certain time.
Last year, they had it by June, I think it was June 25th. You got a year, but the problem was the backlog on the radios, you couldn't get them in. So they have to order the radios and get them delivered.
Thank you.
Problem.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Other discussion? Ms. Coon?
Elliott,
Yes.
Colby,
Yes.
Peters, Newkirk, Young, Bach.
Yes.
Further discussion? Ms. Coon?
Elliott,
Yes.
Colby,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Newkirk,
Yes.
Young, Bach.
Ordinance 05-2025 is duly adopted. This completes the ordinance and resolutions portion of our meeting. Ms. Coon, I don't believe we have any correspondence to share. So is there any old business to be brought before council? Mr. Peters?
The mayor brought up Memorial Building meeting that we had. Do you think we should invite the public to have a meeting regarding that, so they can have some input? Instead of waiting until we need to spend the money, or what do you think about that? I have a whole bunch of extra questions too that I'll reach out to you about after the presentation that we received, but maybe we should have some public input on that, since it, I don't know, especially since the money, a large portion of that money is coming from the state, so. You opposed to that?
Hold up.
It was advertised that way.
Well, yeah, that meeting was a public meeting to ask
Yeah.
for input, but yeah, I envision we'll have another one to do.
Okay, good, because like, that was a public meeting, but what were we talking about and what was gonna be presented? So now the presentation was made, I feel
I
like.
envision we'll have a couple more before anything's done.
And like I said, I would love to meet with you, especially after seeing those proposals, just to ask a few more questions.
Sure. Anytime.
Any other old business to be brought before council? Hearing none, we will speak about new business. I know that we have to schedule a public hearing for March 24th. And this will be for the zoning, new zoning regulations, or proposal, I should say, that came from the Planning Commission this evening.
It'll be council's public hearing regarding the proposed.
So that would be March 24th, before our council meeting, a time that we should have it, how much time, council's thoughts, administration thoughts, 6 o'clock, 6:30, 5:30, what is the pleasure of council?
I would say 6 or 6:30. You never know whether anybody's going to show up or not.
Any other?
Mr. President, we do need to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission to move forward with that specific project, so.
Would council rather make this motion and see how the vote is before we set a date for that?
Yeah, I'll move to accept the recommendation from the Planning Commission regarding the new zoning code.
Is there a second? Mr. Newkirk seconds. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Ms. Kuhn?
I needed your roll call on it?
Yep, please.
That'd be fine, just something, so where I can do that. Okay, Elliott,
Yes.
Colby,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Newkirk,
Yes.
Young, Bott.
So the motion is to hold a meeting and accept the Planning Commission's recommendation. So are we in agreement for the 24th?
Yes, sir. Could we just do that at 6, just in case? There is a little buffer between meetings.
Is 6 o'clock okay with the rest of council?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock on the 24th. Ms. Kuhn, you will get that out
Yeah.
to the public?
Talk to you about it for the.
March 24th, right?
Yes, that's correct. Anything else, new business? Mr. Swikammer?
Can we stay on this topic for one more moment? I know that council wants to have the public hearing and stuff. Do you want to start the first, second, third readings also in conjunction with that and ask Mr. Kirby to bring the legislation? You can always not pass it until after the third, of course, which would be roughly that 24th later on. Because if not, then you've got to then start the readings, which will delay the implementation. I didn't know if you wanted to do anything in simultaneously, I guess, was my question.
I think so.
I would agree that we probably should get started.
First reading at our next meeting on the 24th?
Yeah, or whatever fits.
On February.
Yes, February 24th, we'll look at first reading on the, go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
We had some discussion, I talked to Mr. Elliott, talked to Mr. Castina, who's on the Planning Commission, and we had come to some sort of agreement that commission did previously, before we had brought the Crossroads people on board, that certain areas that were industry or business could be interchangeable with, especially in large areas. Like, I missed the meeting tonight, sorry, I had to work late. But the industrial park, some of them were business, some of them were industrial. So the intention was to be able to change those from one to the other through the Board of Appeals. And I thought we had some language that we had adjusted some of those, but we still need to be able to do that. Because I feel like what we're going to do with an underdeveloped area like that, and we've had these discussions, is we're going to deter business in a sense. And then the example I gave back in those, when we had the meetings over in the Memorial Building, someone may be an investor for, a business or an industry and never come to Jackson and find us or somehow stumble upon our zoning map or whatever. And then, I might have Jackson, and I gave the example Waverly, they're in contention for this business. So I'm checking them out, and I look around, and I see that Waverly is already zoned the way that I want it to, so I'm gonna go to Waverly instead of jumping through all the hoops at Jackson. So, there needs to be some sort of mechanism, even once all this, shakes out, where it can be heard for a change like that. Maybe I'm crazy, but, Mr. Elliott,
You're absolutely right, yeah.
there just needs to be something built in where if we're not deterring business, whatever that may be. But we need to look at that, like I said, once this all shakes out, we get schooled on these processes. I'm not sitting here to deter any business from coming to Jackson for sure, so, thank you.
If I may follow up?
Sure, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, in the situation that's come up here recently, it's not whether it's I or B. Just because you're in a business environment, a business zoning, doesn't mean that any business can go in there. There's a lot of conditional use ones. There was in the old, there is in the new. The one that's most recently came up that was talked about a lot in this last meeting, it wouldn't have made any difference because what the old tenant was doing is not what the new tenant was doing. What the new tenant's doing is a conditional use both in the old and new zoning guidelines. So you would, even if you wasn't rezoning an area, you would still have to go through the Zoning Board of Appeals for the process for the intended use. So just because something is an I or a B or under the new nomenclature, whatever it is, it's the use of the property that determines whether or not it's approved, conditional, or unapproved. Not necessarily just an I, a B, an R. And that was what they ran into.
Yes, Mr. Elliott, please, speak up.
Well, it just seems, it defies common sense. It just defies common sense. So you've got one kind of business and someone else comes along and it's another kind of business. So what? It's a business.
Not necessarily. I mean, you guys put in legislation for ones that, with the, what was it, the cannabis or some of the other stuff, on lengths and distances. You gotta remember, 1983, when it was written, you didn't have all the different things that you have today. And so there is very intentions of what's approved for an area, what's a conditional use for an area. And just because an area is a business zone, doesn't mean it's zoned for any business you want to put in there.
Well, I understand.
Now what the appeals process is.
Well, that's what I said, that's what the appeals process
Right,
is.
but what, I think this, I'm sorry, can I just finish the point?
Yeah, finish your point there.
Well, what was told to the parties involved, that it could be months before they could do that, have a business there. Months.
And that is true, because they met with me, and I talked to them last week, because we're in the process of adopting new legislation. And then even once that's adopted, they have to go through the Zoning Board of Appeals for the conditional use, because it's a conditional use item, it's not an approved item in the old or the new. I was not off when I told them the maximum possible timeline it could take.
Right, but we're still operating under the old set of rules. So we should still operate business under the old set of rules, not under the, because the council could vote it down. And then here we are with the 1983 or 84 book. I don't agree with that way of thinking. We're still under the old rules, then we need to operate under the old rules. We shouldn't be hamstringing business. I'll be quiet.
Mr. Reed.
I was listening, and I've stayed clear out of this, but I was listening to what you were saying. Is there a appeals process? I'll ask Mr. Schleicher, because I don't know.
Sure.
So if the new zoning book, it says industrial, it says commercial, I don't, whichever, and you wanted to take it to another category, You can still do that. by the
Goes through the
same-
planning commission,
Goes, same process as you're doing now,
correct.
but right now, we are operating under current legislation.
And current legislation still doesn't say that they don't have to go through the zoning board of appeals for a conditional use.
But can't they do that right now? I don't see how you're.
Until tonight, nobody came and asked for one.
Okay.
They asked for, and I told them, I said, we're in the process in between the old and the new, because they wanted to know what it was. I laid out the timelines, that if we go through the new process, this is the timelines. I understand from Mr. Elliott that they will probably be coming in to see me tomorrow again.
Other discussion? Any old business, or I'm sorry, any other new business to be brought before council? We do. Ms. Kuhn just reminded me we need to reset the police, fire, and traffic committee meeting that was moved off of tonight because of sickness, so we will look to go the 24th of June, February. I'm thinking of June. February the 24th at 6 o'clock will be police, fire, and traffic. Yes, sir.
Under the Board of Control minutes for February 5th, there's one item discussed. It just says blanket for garbage, contractual services, $210,000. What is blanket? And what are?
For Rumpke. That's a blanket for Rumpke for garbage disposal.
Okay, it just, I don't know how I deducted that just for Rumpke, just by the word blanket, but thank you for clarifying. That is all, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
What time is that meeting?
6 o'clock?
Oh, 6.
Yes. Mr. Bob?
Chief Hinch, I should have asked you this when you were giving your report. As I was out getting signatures to get on the ballot again, I did it right for a change. But people had asked me if there was any way that officers, when they're on patrol at night, I know they're busy, but I couldn't get that across to them, but is there a way that they could, the streetlights throughout the city, I've got 4 to report tomorrow already. Is there any way that they could possibly look at those? I mean, write it down and so that it could be reported? I mean, I know, like I say, I know they're busy and there's things that are much more important than that, but.
We have done that several times in the past.
Okay.
In fact, we've been pretty hard schooled by the electric department. We need to know the pole number, and then there's so many numbers on a pole.
Right.
Educating them to get the correct.
Well, see, that's what I got told, you had to give an address, so
Well, what we were always told is the problem is we give the address, and there could be more than one, and then when they go to fix it, it's daylight, and they're not on, so they can't tell which one's off. I know there have been some upgrades to some, I don't know so much down in your area, whether those have occurred, but it is definitely something I'll put on my night shift agenda and ask them in some dead time.
like I said, there's
It's
important things.
easy, it's easy for us to do, it's something we have taken part in many, many times over the last 2 decades that I've worked with. That's how a lot of times they get reported. But it's probably been a while since we've put that out or been asked to do that, and so thank you for reminding me.
And Mr. Swackhammer, trash cans, people put them out, in my particular neighborhood, they put them out on Saturday to be picked up next Thursday, and they leave them there all week. Is there some sort of ordinance or something that we can make these people not turn the street into trash alley and trash can alley or whatever?
The legislation is in the works for that.
That's what I was wondering if in the new trash can.
With the new trash cans, yeah. I mean, outside the city right now, we are working with about 10 different residents with the new cans and how they're working. Up in the McKittrick Heights area is our initial test zone, but yes, the new legislation will take care of that. It will come down to enforcement and how you want to prioritize the enforcement thereof, and I'd hate to have to follow around every trash route and say, well, you didn't get your can back in time, and But if they do create an incident, I mean, they're clearly in violation then at that time.
That's just, like I said, when I was out getting signatures, I had people asking me these things. One other trash-related thing, the city-owned dumpsters, the lids that are on them that are broke, are they replaceable or?
The city-owned dumpsters that people rent,
No, that are at particular businesses, let's put it that way.
the city-owned dumpsters that are at commercial sites and stuff, they are repairable and replaceable.
Okay.
If you're referring to the ones down by the recycle, of course, those are Rumpke's.
No.
Yeah,
Others,
yeah. But no, they just need to report it.
okay. And I guess that's all that's on my list. Oh, one more.
Go ahead, Mr. Foster.
One more.
Then we'll go to Mr. Reed.
Hope we don't ever have to worry about it again, but snow removal, is it just in the downtown area where the cars are not supposed to be on the streets?
No, the city posted it a few days before the last big event. I believe Brett, your guys had it also, did they not, the snow emergency route listing and stuff? There's several streets defined as snow emergency routes throughout the city. And they're not just state routes.
Okay.
And they're signed pretty well too.
Mr. Reed?
I was back to the trash cans. The ordinance that we're addressing, it will require the city cans to be moved back or away from the road.
Not just the city cans, all cans. And the verbiage that are in there is, it gives a time frame, the day before, midday the day before, and the cans have to be back away from the curb by like midday the next day. So if you're going overnight, you work a night shift, whatever, you put them out early. So you really almost got a 2-day window there.
You can put it out at 4 o'clock the day before your trash is to be picked up, and then your trash is picked up on Thursday. By 8 o'clock Friday morning, you're supposed to have the trash cans removed.
See, you got it memorized better than I did, Mr. Bob.
That's one thing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because there's people that leave them, I thought about, almost hit a couple with my bumper accidentally.
Yeah, I mean, I drive home every night, and if somebody squeezed me just a little bit to the right, I would pop a couple.
You didn't hear that, Mr. Henderson.
Is that it? Is it illegal to hit someone driving? It's in the road.
It's in the road.
Yeah.
Might get whiplash out of it.
That might be their problem, not yours.
Well, before we had no legislation on the book where they weren't supposed to leave them. Now there is legislation there.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on new business to be brought before council? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Peters, your second. Mr. Newkirk, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Our next meeting will be on the 24th.